Good afternoon. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. As most of you know, my name is Lily Belanger, and I am the administrator of the cath lab here at the hospital. I wanted to review with you a recent finding that was discovered that has put the organization at risk for legal consequences. So I'm going to move through that step by step, and if you have any questions along the way, please don't hesitate to ask. So here's some background on the cardiac cath lab. There are 20 cardiologists that this facility is a primary source to, and they're not employed by the hospital. And there are 7 cardiologists that this facility is a secondary source to, and they too are not employed by the hospital. Here's the breakdown of their patients. They see Medicare, Medicaid, third-party insured, and also self-insured patients. And the reimbursement is that 25% is reimbursed, 18% payments from self-insured, and 57% are write-offs. Now, the finance manager did an evaluation recently, and she found that the top 11 users use different product vendors for their stents and catheters. And she found that if they all used the same stent and catheter company, there would be a cost savings to the organization of $1.7 million per year. So this was significant, and we decided to meet with the cardiologist to inform them of this and to see if they'd be willing to move to one vendor. So they agreed that the cost savings was significant, but they were unwilling to change vendors due to their commitments. So some additional findings were that the cath lab head nurse mentioned that sales vendors visited frequently both inside and outside of the surgical suite, and providers were fully engaged in the sales events that were held. So the finance manager ended up researching CMS and the Open Payments website, and she found that the top 13 cardiologists were paid between $250,000 and $500,000 per year by their vendor. So I wanted to go over some corporate compliance problems and resolutions based on what we discovered. So partnerships between physicians and vendors typically yield positive results, and that's a good thing for the hospital. But the challenge lies with actively working to maintain public trust in the reputation of the hospital. So when physicians are given gifts from vendors, it can produce preferential treatment, which can lead to distrust. So our discovery, which was our top 13 cardiologists were paid $250,000 to $500,000 per year by their vendor while using that specific vendor stent or catheter, that is unlawful. So steps that physicians can take to safeguard themselves and the organization are that they can decline cash gifts from vendors related to the treatment provided to the patient. They can decline gifts in which something is expected in return. They can accept gifts related to patient education that can help the patient in some way. And they can also accept gifts that are not high-priced items. So as a side note, Maine state law dictates that a physician will not offer, give, provide, or deliver any refund, commission, preference, sponsorship bonus, discount, or any other complimentary consideration related to services to a participant, or take any other action or receive any other benefit or make referrals that is unlawful. So again, the problem is that the cardiologists appear to be unaware of the corporate compliance policies of the organization, where they feel it is acceptable to receive kickback for services. So the resolution is that compliance starts with setting and communicating the expectations to physicians who work for the hospital through strict policies and procedures. What this does is it helps to safeguard the hospital, since it shows your organization was putting practices in place to comply with the many laws and regulations. And best practice recommendation is to utilize software to manage policies and show record of distribution to staff. So in other words, to show that you shared with your staff what the policies are, what they entail, and there's record of the staff member viewing that policy. So of note, there are 2 main federal laws regarding the payment of illegal kickbacks. One is the anti-kickback statute and the Physician Prevention on Making Self-Referrals, which is the Stark Law. So just to elaborate on that a little bit further, again, the problem, this behavior violates the medical staff bylaws in the following ways. It is an activity by a physician with clinical privileges that is detrimental to patient safety, to the delivery of quality patient care, and it is impactful to the operations of the hospital. Now, again, Maine state law dictates that a physician will not offer, provide, or deliver any refund, commission, preference, sponsorship, bonus, discount, or any other complimentary consideration related to services to a participant or make referrals or receive benefit that is unlawful. And federal law states whoever knowingly and willfully commits the following will be guilty of a crime and will be fined up to $250,000 or could be imprisoned for 10 years or both. They receive any kickback, directly or indirectly, in cash for purchasing a good or service or arranging for the providing of any service in relation to any federal health care program, which is the anti-kickback statute, and that is happening here at the hospital, refers services or utilizes certain equipment for a patient if the physician has a financial relationship with the vendor when these services will be covered by Medicare, Medicaid programs, which is the Stark Law, and that too is happening here at the hospital. So activities or professional conduct of a physician that is harmful to patient safety, quality patient care, disruptive to hospital operations, or violates the provisions of the bylaws, the medical staff rules and regulations, or the hospital policies and procedures warrants corrective action be taken. So the recommendation for the finance manager is the request for corrective action needs to be submitted in writing to the MedExec committee with specific reference to the preferential treatment being provided to these vendors regarding the use of their stents and catheters and the payment received for usage and the subsequent loss of $1.7 million in savings to the hospital with their refusal to switch vendors. A peer review will ensue within 45 days or by the next regularly scheduled meeting, whichever is sooner, and the president of the medical staff will notify the CEO of the hospital and provide updates. And the recommendations on findings should be provided to hospital leadership on the cost savings of using one vendor for the stent and catheter, and the fact that these physicians are committing state and federal crimes, as well as not following the bylaws and corporate compliance policies. Now, some legal recommendations for process improvement. You want to review current policies and procedures and to ensure that they are strong and include the appropriate recommendations. You want to track policy attestation, which is it is best practice to utilize software to keep track of your policies, make them accessible to all employees, and you want to have documentation of who reviewed the policies with a date and timestamp that the hospital can use as leverage when issues like this arise. Next, you want to institute robust compliance training. So training should encompass how the laws and regulations impact staff in real-time situations. And what this will do is it will provide your employees with the tools to identify areas that can fall into noncompliance and how to apply the policies established by the hospital. And number 4 is you want to adopt the Code of Conduct and Ethics guidance and integrate them into your policies. There's an Advanced Medical Technology Association Code of Ethics on interactions with healthcare professionals, and there's also a Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America Code on interactions with healthcare professionals. Although these are voluntary, they have a positive impact in that they are viewed as a good faith compliance effort by enforcement authorities, and they provide structure through guidance to the organization. And I just wanted to make note of, remember that it takes an all-hands approach to achieve compliance. Everyone within the organization needs to be working towards this. So that completes my presentation on this recent finding. And if you have any questions at all about the recommendations that have been set forth or have been provided, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here to help walk you through this. If there's any additional information needed, please don't hesitate to ask, and I will get that back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much.